We're going to cover VST plugins, Virtual Studio Technology plugins. You can bring any audio file you want into this session because I'm just going to show you how you can apply these effects to a file. So I brought this one in, but you can take your pick. So VST, Virtual Studio Technology, that's from a company in Germany named Steinberg. I love saying Steinberg instead of Steinberg. Here's their website in their plugin zone. If you go to products, this is down here in the VST plugin zones. Obviously, you can see that Steinberg does a lot more than just create standards for plugins. And in the plugin zone, you can scroll down and see a whole bunch of commercial plugin providers that are obviously partnering with Steinberg. And these are almost all plugins that you can buy as opposed to get for free. Some offer trial versions, like FabFilter here is one that I'm going to show you in a second. When you look for VST plugins, you can start here, but then you might want to then just do a basic search for VST plugins. And when you do that, you'll get a whole bunch of possibilities. Topping the list of hits, you're probably going to go to this place called VSTplanet.com. They have hundreds of VST plugins. And you'll see two different kinds of plugins. There's VST Instruments and VST Effects. Only VST effects work inside Audition. Instruments do not. Instruments generally are synthesizers and have all kinds of possibilities, but that will not work inside Audition. So if you happen to bring one of these guys in, you can actually enable it inside Audition, but you're enabling it in name only. It won't show up inside your effects list and won't work inside Audition. One other point, there are two different standards for VST plugins. There's VST 2.4, sometimes called 2.x, and VST3. VST3 is the newest standard. And you won't find very many VST3 effects. You will find plenty of VST. It won't say 2.4 after them probably, but you know that they're not 3 because they don't have 3 after them. But there are a few VST3 effects out there for free, but not many. Most of them are commercially available. You need to put your VST plugins in folders that Audition can track down. I mean, it's not absolutely necessary when it's VST 2.4, but it is necessary for VST 3. And so these are the folder locations on a Mac, and I'll show you folder locations for the Windows in just a second. On a Mac side, the default folder location for VST 2.4 is here. That's where Audition will automatically try to track down any VST plugins that you put in. This is sort of a sub-default version, but I would just, go with the default one. That's the one on top there. That's probably your best bet. If you're going to use VST3 plugins, they have to go here, or Audition won't find them. So they need to be inside this directory, inside this folder directory. If you use Audio Unit plugins, which is unique to Apple products, Audio Unit is a standard created by Apple that kind of runs parallel to VST in terms of what it does. Then you need to put your Audio Unit plugins inside this folder. That's the default folder there. But you can also put it down here. But my thinking is put it in the default folder here and put it in the default folder there because it just makes Audition find your plugins a little bit faster. On the Windows side, it's a little simpler. There are no Audio Unit files here because that's Apple only. There are just two locations when you're bringing in VST plugins to use inside Audition. Put your VST plugins here, Program Files x86, Steinberg VST plugins, and put your VST3 plugins here. Now, lots of VST3 plugins have their own installer. Not that it's a big deal, you're just putting a file in a folder, but they will automatically find this VST3 folder and put it in the proper place. Now, I'm working on Windows, so let me just show you an example of how that works. I've got my main drive here, C drive, Program Files x86, Common Files subfolder, and inside the Common Files subfolder, I've got a VST3 folder. If I open it up, there is my VST3 file. All VST3 files have this .vst3 extension. Let me back up and show you how to find the VST 2.4 files. I just have the program files here, and under program files, I'm going to scroll down, and there's a Steinberg subfolder. Inside there, there's the VST plugin subfolder. And inside there, you'll find the VST 2.4 or 2.x files. And they have DLL extensions, Dynamic Link Library extensions there. So once you have those guys in their proper respective folders, you need to tell Audition that they're out there. And the process is fairly straightforward and simple. Go to Effects, and at the bottom of Effects is a thing called the Audio Plugin Manager. You click on that, and it looks like this. It has, originally when they created Audition, the default location for VST plugins, but as I mentioned, that's changed a little bit. And that'll just show that original one there. And it won't show any other locations unless you add them manually. So if you put a VST 2.4 plugin in some other folder besides the one I just showed you, you need to click Add, track down that folder, and then bring it in. And then the plugin manager will look in that folder as well. That's why you don't have to put the 2.4 plugins in the folder that Audition expects you to. You can put them someplace else. But to me, it makes a lot of sense just to follow the defaults. So here you open up this guy and you click on Default, and it will check default locations. It says you're going to reset everything. That's fine because we're starting from scratch here. Here we go. And look at that. It found that other one that I just showed you a couple seconds ago. And you're wondering, why doesn't it show the VST3 folder? That's because that's done internally. It's hardwired here with the Audio Plugin Manager to track that down, and you don't see it. This top part is just the part that's looking for VST 2.4 plugins. Once it gets the right folders, now it's found these two folders, I don't need to click Add because this is the default one for 2.4, and I don't need to worry about VST3 because it found that one internally here. Now I say, scan for plugins. Look in those folders. It scans, and it finds those two guys I showed you a second ago. There's the VST3 one right there from FabFilter, and there is the VST 2.4 one here, and it both says working. Yes, it's great. So we enable them all. Same thing. Basically, it's all done. Don't really need to do this. Just wanted to show you if you click on it, it still says working. Now I click OK. And they now show up immediately in the effects drop-down list or in the effects rack. You don't have to restart Audition. Go to Effects. Now under VST, there'll be the name of those two guys, VST and VST3. There they are. Now they pop out like this with the names like that. That's not necessarily the default way that they will display. I've changed my preferences to have them display like that. Let me show you the preferences here. Go to Edit Preferences, or on a Mac, Adobe Audition Preferences, and go to Effects. Inside Effects, it says Sort Effect Menu By. Right now it says None. I'm not sorting it at all. But if I clicked Vendor and Category and Vendor, it will display differently. I'll show you that. It depends on kind of the internal description of the effect created by the people who created the effect. I'll go back down here. And now you see this thing flips out to the name of the company, the name of the category, and the name of the effect. Same thing with VST3. There's the company, there's the type of effect, and there is the name of the effect. I figure, why do I want to go through 3 levels unless I've got a whole boatload of VST effects? I really don't want to go through all that trouble. So I'm going to go back to Edit Preferences, go back to Effects, and change that back to None. So I can just get those guys to pop out immediately. All right, let me just do this. I can open up my effects this way, which was the way I would do that if I were applying them directly. But you know, these guys are all real-time effects, which is really cool. They will work inside the effects rack. So I'm going to go to the effects rack, go to VST, click on that one. There you go. Look how cool looking these guys are. Almost all VST effects have these pretty cool looking interfaces that either emulate an old hardware device or just give you this fun looking graphic thing. I'm going to close that down for a second and open up the other one just so you can see both of them. Under VST3, there's the FabFilter. I'm going to get a little message here. This is a trial version, so we're just evaluating it now. Close that down. So here we have both guys loaded up, and they have these cool interfaces, and there's a help file, and some of them come with the PDF files that walk you through how to use it, or text files, explain how it all works. These guys reside inside this effect dialog box. So the standard effect dialog box in Audition has all this stuff here and down here. But they don't necessarily take their default settings or their extra settings and put them up here under presets. Here, it's just default. You really don't have a list of the ones. So sometimes they work kind of hand in hand with this little drop-down list. Sometimes they don't. So here are these presets over here, and I'm just going to click through a few of them as we play along here. Here we go. I'm going to start playing it.
I couldn't give you what you wanted. I couldn't give what you were asking for.
So just a few presets here that are intended to kind of push out the audio a little bit. I'll close that one down. Open up this one here instead. There we go. Double click on it. This one has some presets. If you click this drop-down list, they built them in, so there's a little more of a connection between this VST plugin and Audition than the other one. I'll just start playing this guy.
I couldn't give you what you wanted. I couldn't give what you were asking for. I couldn't give you what you wanted.
Lots of fun stuff, and obviously you can control all of these guys. Now, one little admonition here, or one little caveat. Some VST plugins work better than others, and some are more stable than others. It won't be uncommon to run across some VST plugins that when you open them up on Audition, they might crash. Or worse yet, the plugin might crash Audition. So just be aware of that not all plugins are created equal, and some can cause Audition to misbehave. The one good thing about this whole thing when something bad happens is that Audition is written such that it remembers what you're working on, and if it crashes when you reopen, it'll ask you, do you want to go back to where you just left off? So that's a pretty good thing. So there's a look at the VST, the Virtual Studio Technology plugins inside Audition.